Football team, Steelers. Going through what y'all need to know to make some money on this bitch. So first we got the picks real quick. We got a line set at 7, Steelers favorite at home, and a over under set at 43.5. So I actually am not going to be strongly in any of these games. I think you got to be real careful with this one. I'm going to land on the side of the under is the best of the possible bets, under 43.5, and as well if you want to take the Steelers on the money line, I still think they're going to win, but it's probably not a good value. Um, and as far as the spread goes, we'll get into it, but that ain't worth touching. I promise you. So, yeah, stick around and I'll explain the why and how. That's why I go down. So, first we got the football team offense versus the Steelers defense. Injury wise, football team, um, Morgan Moses, starting left tackle, is questionable. He's going to play. Troy McLaurin, too. It's announced he's going to play. And on the Steelers side, Steven Nelson, starting corner, pretty good. He is doubtful, and I'm assuming he ain't going to play. So we got offensive line versus defensive line as far as the run game go, and it's gonna get ugly. Listen, the Redskins' offensive line is still pretty bad, especially on the interior, which is kind of where we're gonna start here. I mean, Chase Roulier I actually think is okay, but Wes Schweitzer has destructive issues at times. He's real, can be really bad. He's actually been better this year than he has been in the past, but he's still not good. And then Brandon Scherf is super overrated. He does some good things in terms of like moving down the field, run blocking, and he can make highlights pushing people. But down to down, he's actually pretty vulnerable to getting beat, and it's not uncommon. And the Steelers are the best defensive front in the league, probably, especially on the interior. Tyson Alualu's been crazy this year, and he's the exact type of player that gives these dudes problems. Same as Stephon Tuitt, and even Cam Hayward he's a little slower, a little more of a power guy, but all three of them can really notably penetrate in the backfield in this game. And on the edges, Bud Dupree towards ACL last game, starting as a linebacker, each player for the Steelers on IR. So you're probably looking at Alex Highsmith or don't remember his first name, but I know his last name is Adeniyi. As far as the other edge, and actually Highsmith I think has been reasonable to. I mean, he's probably honestly going to be not different than Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree's not very good. He's actually no, I shouldn't say that. He's a good run defender. Um, so there's going to be a little bit of a drop off there, but it's not going to be all that noticeable. And more importantly, TJ Watt's still on the other edge. So on the edges here, Morgan Moses gets beat all the time on the inside in the run game. He can push, like he can move the line of scrimmage a little bit if he gets in like double teams, and you might see that a few times this game. But it's nothing consistent on the other edge. You're still talking about David Sharp starting in tackle, who is I actually think as far as like backup swing tackles go is reasonable, but he's nothing special. And I almost wonder if now that Cornelius Lucas is healthy, if they start him at left tackle, move Morgan Moses back to the right. We'll see. But either way, overall the run. I mean, the offensive line is not going to be useful, like a positive in this game. So then you talk about the second level. Steelers linebackers are good. Robert Spillane is pretty good. The linebacker's been starting to play since Devin Bush towards ACL. It's been a long time at this point. Vince Williams also a little slow sideline to sideline, but he'll be fine. So and you're talking about a bad run scheme as far as the football team goes. Um, a bad run scheme and offensive linemen who just don't get down the field well. So the overall run game is just gonna be bad, just like the football team generally is. There's just not advantages between the line of scrimmage and like 10 yards down the field. Now past that, if Antonio Gibson gets the space, that dude's good, and he can make yards for sure, but it's not gonna be consistent or even like frequent at all in any capacity in this game. So you're talking about just not a useful run game. So you get to the pass game, and I mean, Terry McLaurin is fantastic, super, super, super good, and he is good enough to beat anyone who's guarding him in this game, like constantly, including Joe Hayden. Terry McLaurin's awesome, but Steelers, of course, don't run a lot of or almost any like press man or isolated island defenders in man coverage. So Terry McLaurin is not going to be able to exercise his advantage to that level. Now he's still going to be able to find space in his own well. I'm telling you, he's really good, but the other Redskins receiver is going to have issues because even without Steven Nelson, Cam Sims, who gets the most time as the Redskins football team's other receiver, isn't very good. Especially he cannot create separation to save his life, really. And whether it's Justin Lane that the Steelers started the other corner spot, or Cameron Sutton if they move him out from the slot because Mike Hilton, I'm sure, is still going to play all the snaps there. Whoever it is, they're gonna be able to handle Cam Sims. Now, is there a chance he gets some downfield stuff, or just over time he's still a non-garbage like NFL level receiver? So yeah, sure, but it's really consistent. I'd prefer they play Dontrell Inman. He's just better. Dontrell Inman is underrated. He's actually a reasonable receiver, but even he isn't anything. But like, I'm not gonna chill with Dontrell Inman. So then you talk about the pass rush. Like I mentioned, it's real nasty for the Steelers. Incredibly good, and they're the exact type of players that beat the Redskins' offensive line in terms of the Redskins' offensive line like losing quickly to agility, quickness, hand placement, all that stuff. And on the edges, T.J. Watt is going to be a near destructive issue. The other edge is going to be mostly clean, I'll say. In this game, Highsmith has done some decent things as a like run defender or like all around edge guy, but not as a pass rusher. Same with the Denny. So you are talking about one clean edge, which is helpful, but you need a lot more than that to drive Alex Smith to success, which is the next thing. Yeah, Alex Smith. I mean, he hasn't shown, even going back to when he was a starter for forever on like the Chiefs and the 49ers, he hasn't shown like any notable ability to like read or handle complicated zone defenses, which is what the Steelers run. And so he's not going to like raise the floor or the ceiling of the offense. Terry McLaurin helps him a lot by being open, but he's not going to be open enough because he's not manned up a lot to truly drive the offense. And there is enough, more than enough pass rush to give him issues and be dangerous. This is not going to be like the Cowboys game, is what I'm saying. And even if they do get in the red zone, it's not very good. Terry McLaurin helps a lot because he's so good and he can win so quickly down there. But that's one guy. I'm sure the Steelers are going to overcorrect for that. And so you're left with Alex Smith trying to fit the ball into Cam Sims and Steven Sims in the red zone. It's just not going to work. So I have them at a point spread of 10-17. Now it's maybe they could get a little bit higher than that if their defense gives them a score, but that's not. I mean, A, it's never something I would bet on anyway. But B, I actually don't even think that's super likely. So yeah, 10-17 I think is about right. So then the Steelers offense versus the football team defense. Injuries. Still no Marquise Pouncey on the Steelers on the COVID list. So you're looking at J.C. Hassenauer at center again, and nothing relevant on the football team. So this is pretty interesting, actually. I like this matchup. And as far as the offensive line versus defensive line goes, it's going to be an advantage to the football team defensive line. I mean, the Steelers on the interior, David Castro's good, and he can handle Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, the football team's defensive tackles to some extent, but he's not great, and he's not especially he's not great enough to like kill these guys. And the other spots, I mean, Matt Filer, he's decent to good at guard. I think he's useful, but he does struggle with strength. He's not very strong on the interior. And Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne are, so you're going to see a lot of control, and versus J.C. Hassenauer, who wasn't exactly great against backups in the Ravens game. So you're going to see a lot of control of the line of scrimmage from the Redskins interior, the football team's interior. And on the edges, it's really the same thing. Alejandro Villanueva is also a notably weak tackle, and Chukwuma Okorafor, I like the right tackle. I actually like. I think he's pretty good. He's probably going to be there for a long time, but he isn't, as a run blocker, isn't anything special. And I think Montez Sweat and Chase Young, for all their problems, I mean, they're going to be not dominant at the line of scrimmage. They're not. None of the Redskins are like good enough to be dominant, but they're going to be really, really good. So the overall run game, I'm still going to give it mediocre though, because I think underrated is that the Steelers have one of the most creatively schemed run games in the whole NFL. It's really, really interesting, and it's really good. It's effective too, and you're going to see that shine through a little bit here, especially because on the second level, I mean, Jonathan Bostic is still exploitable as a run defender. He's just too slow. He's not athletic enough, but he's not awful in this game. I don't think he's going to be awful. And Cole Holcomb, who thank God is actually playing now, like pretty much full time, is by far the Redskins' best, the football team's best linebacker, and you're going to see that he's actually good and like, useful in this game. But the second level, yeah, it's still just not great for the football team, and I think that's where the chunk plays are going to come from the Steelers scheming stuff versus to take advantage of John Bostic. But it's not going to be constant. In fact, again, that's like on the other side of the ball. I don't think it'd be very frequent. So it's not real pretty picture for that. So you get to the pass game, pass rush first. Here, the football team's pass rush gets really overrated. Chase Young is he's fine. He's probably going to be better than that in a little bit, but he's nowhere near like the Bosa's, like not even close in terms of his impact on the game. And Montez Sweat on the other side too is a whatever pass rusher, and Ryan Kerrigan is a little bit better than that, but he's not, he's not a top tier pass rusher. And on the interior, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne are better, much better run defenders than they are, like much better run defenders than they are pass rushers. I should mention Tim Settle too is actually in that category of being really good, but a lot he's even more extreme to the run defender side. So on the interior of the Steelers, I think are going to be pretty much fine. Although you are going to see Matt Filer getting driven out of the pocket pretty consistently in this game, and J.C. Eisenhower can just lose because he's bad. Like he's not. I'm not going to call him bad yet, but he's not good enough to be clean. But on the edges, there are going to be issues because, like I said, the football team's edge rush gets overrated. But here, they're the type of players who give the Steelers tackles problems, so there's going to be some, but it's not going to be anything super consistent. So you talk about the receivers, and again, I think the Steelers actually run into issues here. Juju Smith-Schuster and Chase Claypool are both guys that do some things pretty good. I would really compare them to previous in development, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin on the Bucks, where Chase Claypool is the Mike Evans and Juju is the Chris Godwin, and I compare them to because they're not near. They don't actually consistently drive offense by themselves. Juju struggles with separation, especially versus good man corners, and Chase Claypool is just okay with separation, and he's not like consistently open. He just makes contested catches, which is useful and absolutely possible in this game. But I just want to point out that I think whoever Kyle Fuller on the that's Kendall Fuller on the football team shadows whoever he's guarding this game, he's going to be better than, and he's going to be able to limit them production wise. And even Ronald Darby, I think, is really exploitable downfield in terms of like double moves and biting on just really dumb things. He's good enough to actually stick with these receivers for a lot of the time too. Deontay Johnson, he's going to be fine. He's the best of the three, but even he is going to be limited some by Fuller if he guards him, or even Jimmy Moreland, the football team slot corner, I think is pretty reasonable. So you're not talking about great ability from the Steelers receivers in this game. And given that, you talk about the quarterback versus the defense, and Big Ben's going to be fine in this game. Like I said, he can navigate the pass rush in this game. It's not going to be destructive. But it is there. It is limiting. And his receivers aren't good enough to kind of raise him up out of that. Now, he's good enough to create some stuff, but he gets the ball out so quick that without a ton of quick separation, it's probably not going to drive a great offense. In fact, I can tell you it's not going to. And that's why I put the overall pass game. It's just okay. The receivers aren't going to be great in this game. Deontay Johnson, the best of them, but even he is limited. And then the pass rush is absolutely gonna hurt their offense. It's not going to kill it, but it's going to hurt it. And it's just not. Nothing indicates that the Steelers are going to be super good offensively like they are in some other games. And you talk about the red zone. They're going to be a little bit better because Big Ben is good in the red zone. And at that point, the way they run their offensive scheme helps. But even then, I'm not going to put a ton of faith in them. So I have them on point spread at 18-26. And honestly, that's probably at the higher end of it, because if they get higher than that, it would be because their defense scored, or because on the other side of the ball, Alex Smith just cannot move the ball, so the Steelers get 1,000 chances offensively. Is really the only way they get higher than that, and that's why I end on the under here, because I just don't see how it gets close. It's either both of these teams are in the high teens. Maybe low. No, I shouldn't say that because the under is set low. It could get close, but I would get on this side of the under, because if the football team aren't in the high teens, then I think they're in the single digits, and that means that the Steelers aren't going to be able to cover the rest by themselves. Is the way I'd frame it. So, Steelers win under 43.5. Neither really bettable, but those are the sides to be on. And then Steelers -7, but do not touch that line. And that is football team Steelers.